Hey folks, Phil Gallagher here for round 4 of Daily D&T this week. We're currently 3-0 going into this match. We've beaten Storm twice, and we beat Eldrazi as well. I don't know how to feel about this hand, because I've never had a hand like this one before. Am I willing to keep a hand that has an extremely stable mana base and a curve of Charming Prince into Crusader into Jailer? This is a really hard to evaluate hand. I'm gonna keep this to see where it goes. Like, I'd be pretty comfortable if this was Delver, much less so if this is combo. Well, if it's show and tell and we show and tell in a Jailer, maybe we win. Really don't like that draw of sword here. We're a long ways away from playing that. Yeah. If my opponent just goes off here, there's literally no hand we could have had in game 1 that could have beaten this. So this will probably just be double crack for ad nauseum. So my opponent will get to ad nause with 1 floating from 19. That should be a pretty easy win. What? That should be beatable. I'm actually legit confused. I think the take here is probably Charming Prince. I don't think Palace Jailering right now is necessarily the best thing that I could be doing. So I can Giver of Runes and Swords to Plowshares. My opponent will attack with 7 creatures. I'll block 3 of them. I'll get rid of 4. I'll take 3, and then I will have stabilized the board. Can I afford to play the Sword of Fire and Ice this turn, actually? So I block 3 and go to 4 instead of 3. That leaves my opponent with 4 goblins. I can Mirren Crusader, gun down 2, Swords to Plowshares, and potentially like Palace Jailer the rest away. It might actually be better to do this and play around Thoughtseize. 4 versus 3 makes almost no difference in this deck because they're doing increments in points of 2 damage most of the time. So now I need to think for a minute about how I'm going to play my turn. So Mirror Crusader alone is going to whack them for 8. It could whack them for 12. But whacking them for 8 and then whacking them for 8 again is still lethal anyway. So we're going to go ahead and equip to the Crusader, and we'll bash in. I guess I've got the ground pretty much covered. I'm going to shoot them with the first one, actually. So I'm gonna play a Tomic in all likelihood. Yeah, I'm gonna shoot them with the first one. So I think my math was off the first time. So this puts them to 11. And then 4 puts them to 7, so that the Crusader is... Oh no, I had the triggers to think about next turn. I'm dumb. So I'm actually not going to play the Tomic. So what if they have Ritual plus Tendrils? That deals 4 damage. It can be 5 damage after a Goblin hit. So I'm actually just going to pass with double Swords to Plowshares up, and then there's probably no way that I lose. So now with my opponent on 2 cards, I think we've just got this. All right. So we want Chalices, we want Surgical, we want Rest in Peace here. What do we not want? We probably don't want our Swords to Plowshares. Probably don't want our Jitte. Probably don't want our Jailer. Maybe trim a Flicker Wisp pretty safely. And then maybe one of our generic beaters like Tomic. Looks like with this configuration, we're mostly going to want to leave our Vial on 2 until we have a good reason to put it up to 3. So that's going to be something to keep in mind for this matchup. Good hand is good. So the best hands against Ant are going to be the ones where you go and you keep a hand that beats a Thoughtseize. So if you can deploy a hate card on turn 2 while also having redundancy. That's sort of like the best of all worlds. And I am going to go ahead and take out this tropical island and start the mana denial plan early. I technically could have surgical extraction the preordained to see how good of an idea that was, but I feel pretty good about doing it. I would rather save the surgical extraction as a hate piece if my opponent can go off on what is effectively their turn 2. Bad news, friend. Thoughtseize, probably not good enough here. Unless you can go off now. So we're in some degree of danger this turn of just losing to something like Massacre into going off. But after this turn, we're going to actually be very, very safe because we have this second Thalia. Even more safe now. We can just kind of leave the Vial at 2 and have the opportunity to throw another Thalia in play in response to a bounce spell or something like that. Chain of Vapor my Vial on 2 in response. That's actually pretty good. So since I'm going to search, putting Charming Prince in play and scrying doesn't do a ton. So instead we'll activate this, play a Stoneforge. Since I don't have the 4th land, well, I'm going to go ahead and do Sword of Fire and Ice here. No, I will not sacrifice a land, thank you. So my plan for next turn is just cast the Sanctum Prelate. Well, I'm going to keep talking anyway. My plan for next turn is to cast the Sanctum Prelate, and then to go from there in terms of plotting out the game. So I don't need the aggro that Batterskull provides so much as I just need to eliminate more of my opponent's outs to my stuff. So putting this sword on Thalia actually means that they can no longer Echoing Truth, Chain of Vapor, or Massacre it away. So that's actually a very, very important draw. With my opponent at 7, they are also just facing down lethal next turn. Or sorry, with my opponent at 6, they're facing down lethal. From the Thalia alone at that. Lol. So my opponent can do things to stay alive here, such as Echoing Truthing the sword. But where does that leave them afterwards? It leaves them at 1. I'll have a Rest in Peace in play. And if my opponent massacres, I don't want to play another creature to the board. I actually just want to play Ether Vial. But if my opponent massacres, then I have Thalia next turn as well. Bottom with that. Feeling pretty good. Could be Massacre into Thoughtseize. It was not. We've beat Storm 3 times this league, folks. Ant twice, and TES once. Let's see if we can get the 5-0 tomorrow.